Hey, it's me with video 3. I'm trying to keep my head tipped down right so that the reflection on my glasses doesn't... Oh, that's weird. Anyways, so this is the third video in the series, and in this one we talk about some of the more nuts and bolts things, and we talk about customer service ideas, what other services you're going to offer, and more importantly, I talk about something that was probably the most asked on all my other videos, and that is how to get set up with other distributorships. So let's jump right into it. Now that you've decided what you want to carry, then you have to determine if there's going to be any other services you offer. Do you have isolated rooms where you're going to rent out for D&D? Are you going to do birthday things? Are you going to do special tournaments? What kind of services are you going to offer? Are you going to do consignments where people can bring stuff in and sign it up and you sell them and take a cut? Are you going to buy used games and sell used games? Are you going to get into TCG singles? If you do, are you going to do Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Lorcana? I don't recommend the Japanese games. I've never had good luck with them. I'm sure there's probably 100 other stores, million other stores that are just making cash hand over fist with Japanese games.
I have never, ever done it. It has been an uphill slog even to sell Yu-Gi-Oh in any store I've ever had, but I know lots of people do fantastic with it, but that's a decision you gotta make.
Are you gonna rent board games? I've seen some programs out there where people would rent board games, and we did it for a while too. If you don't have the right software to keep track of it and secure credit card information, it's very clunky and weird. I don't know if there's a benefit to it. Are you going to offer an opening service? Lloyd had suggested this to me when I first opened Gamers, is he had a shrink wrap machine, and then if people wanted to check out a board game, he'd pop that sucker open right there and let them open it and look through the pieces, and they'd re-shrink wrap it and put it on the table. That's something you want to keep in mind and work on as well. What services do you want to offer? Are they maintainable? Are they profitable? And what kind of infrastructure is going to have to be in place for you to orchestrate all of that? Anything that gets something into a customer's hand is what you want to be aiming for. Because once you've handed it to them, like their brain, like something clicks in their brain and they're like, this is mine now and I want to keep it. And then they have to go the decision-making process of, can I afford this or should I buy it? I'm not saying to trick people. I'm just saying, don't point things to people. Don't point at it. Be like, there, the sleeves are over there. They ask for sleeves. You walk them over to the sleeves and say, here is our selection of sleeves. You were looking for red dragon shields. Grab a pack of red dragon shields. Put it in their hands. It sounds ridiculous, but it works. I do not have any solid metrics on it, but we started implementing this at Funny Pages. No matter what a person was looking for, we did not just tell them where it was. We escorted them over to the location where it was, and we handed it to them whenever we possibly could. You're looking for a dwarf paladin? We walked them right over to the Whiz Kids area, and we got the dwarf paladin because we had them all organized, of course, so that we could grab them easily. Boom, dwarf paladin in your hand. Now, 9 times out of 10, they're walking out of the store with that dwarf paladin. Now, this should make a lot of people happy because this is probably one of the more popular questions I got on my first video. I owned a game store for 10 years, and that is, how do you get set up with distributors? And what distributors do you use? And some distributors are better than others. And that's yes or no, maybe or not, I don't know. Some of it depends on who you are, what you sell, where you are, and a number of factors. But the gist of it is you can pretty much sign up with any distributor, in my opinion. It's almost always that you have to have a brick and mortar store, and they'll typically want a picture of your store. When we first signed up Gamer Sanctuary as a company, we got hooked up with Games Workshop. Of course, they're their own distributor. And if you're going to sell GW stuff, I'd recommend you get set up with them. You can order their stuff from like Alliance or ACD or PhD, but the discount, of course, isn't as good because the mainstream distributors will get the same discount you get if you sign up from GW or with GW, which I think is 45% for the most part. That's the discount you're going to get. It's 45% on GW products. But you'll have a dedicated rep. They used to do prize support or event support, whatever you want to call it. It's just support where you got so many dollars a month of free products you could get. They wouldn't just give it to you. You had to tell them what you were doing. Oh, I'm going to do a Tanksgiving or something. So everyone's going to get a tank and paint it or whatever. Or we had a lot of fun with doing Battle Force leagues or campaigns where everyone would get a Battle Force and pay for it over the weeks of the campaign. By the end of the campaign, your Battle Force was assembled, you paid it off, and you were into 40K now, so hopefully we're selling you boxes and paint and glue and brushes and all that stuff. A lot of times you can sign up with anybody. I've heard people ask if there's any special circumstances. If there is, it's news to me. Over the years, we've had accounts with Games Workshop, Alliance, ACD, PhD, or Peach State Hobby, as they used to be called, GTS, Magazine Exchange, Golden Distribution, War Cradle Studios, Battlefront Miniatures, which owns Flames of War and Gale Force 9. We worked with all of them. We even had an account with Wizards of the Coast, because back when I first opened Gamers, you could order directly from Wizards of the Coast. And then they stopped doing that. You can't get Wizards of the Coast product from ACD anymore. They lost their license or whatever it is with Wizards of the Coast, unless they got it back in the last couple of years, and I haven't heard anything about that. But there's exclusives. Different distributors have different exclusives. If you're going through Alliance, Alliance is owned by Diamond, so a lot of times you can get the stuff from either or. If you're a comic book shop, you can get set up with Alliance pretty easily, but I think you can order almost everything that Alliance has through Diamond. But Alliance is the only company that sells Hero Clicks, so if you're doing Hero Clicks, you're kind of stuck on that one. Diamond is another one. Lunar is a comic book distributor that you have to go through for DC, because they had to make it weird. Like, it wasn't weird enough already ordering comic books. Now you got to go through two places, whatever the drama is behind that. I only care about how much harder it makes my job, so I didn't like that. But that's what you got to deal with in the comic book world. It's not fun, it's weird, but you just got to suck it up and deal with it. And but there's no reason you can't really sign up with anybody. Is anybody better than anybody else? I don't know. It kind of depends on where you are. I've had good luck with different companies. Southern Hobbies was my primary Magic distributor for a long time. And then we switched to Peach State Hobby because they had a better deal or different incentives. Sometimes you sign up for your pre-release with a given distributor. They'll have certain incentives that you get, like, oh, you'll get so many packs of sleeves for free or so many promos for free or whatever it is. At the end of the day, your discount from any distributor is going to be based on how much you order. So while it's cool to have access to a lot of different distributors to get a lot of different things, it's not going to work out so well on the pocketbook side of things. And when it came right down to it, I ended up really dealing with just a couple of distributors. Alliance was my primary, and PhD was my secondary, and then Games Workshop for my Games Workshop stuff. And that worked really good. I know it's clunky. Alliance's website, I always loved using it to order stuff and to stage orders that I wasn't ready to place yet. And the pre-order thing works out really well. PhD's website is very good. ACD's is good, but their search feature was really clunky and elbowy. If you want to get into some of the more niche games, then there's Golden Distributors or Golden Distribution, and War Cradle Studios. They carry some of the weirder stuff that's harder to find. Battlefront, if you're going to do Flames of War, which is a World War II miniatures game, which is probably one of the best World War II miniatures games, if you have historical players that are into that kind of stuff. Flames of War for me was always kind of hit and miss. It seemed like I could kind of build up a crowd and then it would fall apart and we'd end up getting rid of it. And then 3 or 4 years later, I kind of build up a crowd and then it'd fall apart. If you have guys in your area that do historical stuff, Flames of War might be worth checking out. But more importantly, they're owned by Battlefront, which is, they own Gale Force 9, which has lots of really cool board games like the Dune board games. Star Trek Ascendancy, some other Star Trek stuff. They have some licenses that are very cool. Doctor Who board game. But they also have Gale Force 9 used to be a real powerhouse in the hobby supplies area, with like basing material and brushes and tools and things. I stopped using them over the years and transitioned over to Army Painter, which you can get through, I think, almost any distributor. You can get Army Painter, but they have really great paints and hobby supplies and tools. I love everything Army Painter makes, and I would not own a store that didn't carry Army Painter. And they're not paying me to say it. I just love them. And if they wanted to pay me to say it, I would accept that check. Now we're going to kind of get into the boring stuff. So I won't linger on this too much if I don't have to. But you're going to have to work on infrastructure and business systems. And I know that's super boring because it doesn't have anything to do with games or events or fun times. It's just run-of-the-mill metrics and inventory and cash flow and daily sales. You need a good solid point of sale system where you can departmentalize all your different things, because I know it's a lot of work to get set up, but there is nothing that is going to be more valuable to you later than when you are able to pull up a report to see how sales are doing on a departmental scale. How many D&D books are you selling? How is role-playing doing in general? How's your TCG department doing in general? How's your hobby supplies doing? How's your 40K doing? These are all things that are tracked by your point of sale, how much you have, how much you're selling it for. Are you going to integrate it with a web store? Are you not? Are you just going to sell in-house? Which either one is very good. It just depends on what you're looking to do. Personally, I would have a web store, but I would not be pushing it in order to sell things to people outside my area. It would strictly be to make ease of shopping for my customers. Maybe somebody's sick, or they don't like going out of the house, or they're not able to go out of the house. So they can still shop and, either pick up in store. We did do some deliveries in the local area when we were Funny Pages, but mostly it was just there to let people see what we had so they could check if we had a thing, and then they could reserve it on the web store and come in and pay for it. I've used a lot of different services. If you're going to be carrying Magic or Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon singles, any kind of singles, you're going to end up dealing probably with BinderPOS or Crystal Commerce, and they do have a respectable point of sale built in that will track store credit and all your other inventories, and you can departmentalize it any way you want. It's cloud-based, so if the internet goes down, you're kind of out of luck, and I didn't like that aspect of it. At the end of the day, we used a combination. I used BinderPOS for all our Magic singles so that people could look them up online, but we also had a kiosk set up in store so you could go there and look it up, and all our cards were in boxes in a shelf behind the counter, and we would pull them when you ordered them. And that worked out really, really well, but that wasn't our primary point of sale. We used Square as our merchant service and as our point of sale. They had a really sleek, very cool point of sale system that came with like a computer and a cash drawer and a receipt printer that's integrated with their web store software, so it was very seamless. It was amazing. Like, I loved everything about it, and I would not even probably look into any other provider and would just go for Square. Again, they're not paying me for that. I'm just telling you the things that I like because they're easy, they're intuitive, and they don't give me any grief. And they have a really great administrative side. So when you log in on the user side, you get your web store, whatever you're looking at. But when you log in on the admin side, it gives you just a pile of metrics that you can play around with in inventory management, generate reports, see what you don't have, see what you need to order. These are all things you got to pay attention to. And it's better to invest that time up front to get it set up so that your day-to-day is just breezing through a reorder sheet and you're not going out there walking the floor seeing what you got to do. You do have to do physical inventory from time to time, but it shouldn't be weekly in my opinion. The other nice thing about Square is they are the merchant service provider, so you don't have to get set up with a third-party service company. Crystal Commerce and BinderPOS have their own thing set up. BinderPOS was a little clunky. Like, Crystal Commerce was all integrated into the system. BinderPOS, you had to have like a different swipey thing. I don't know. It was weird. I don't really remember the details. We got rid of it almost. Like, we bought the card reader, and then they were starting to walk us through the hookup, and I was like, I didn't like it. And there wasn't anything wrong, like, security-wise. I just didn't like the clunky elbowy-ness of it, so I just got rid of it, and we went with Square. That thing is beautiful. Their point-of-sale terminal is fantastic. It's all touch screen. It's almost like a double-sided iPad with a stand. The customer has their little display, and you can put graphics on it. And they had, insert to pay, swipe to pay, tap to pay. It's beautiful. You would think they're paying me to say this, but they're not. It's just a great system. Of course, the other nice thing about a point-of-sale system is a lot of times it'll do your daily sales for you, because you do have to keep track of that for yourself, but also for any sort of tax or income reporting you have to do. Daily sales and payroll. They had some payroll stuff integrated that I never got into. But you got to handle all of that stuff, all the bookkeeping. You get yourself a good accountant, somebody who's attentive, who knows their stuff. There's a lot of hacks out there. I've had people I had one accountant who we were just having all kinds of problems with, and it happened that one of my customers worked for the Internal Revenue Service branch in Flint, and they came out, and I was kind of complaining to them without saying any names. I said, man, they're just really running me through the ringer. I got to get these forms submitted, and it's just such a headache. And he's like, oh, is it such and such? And I was like, yeah, how do you know? And he's like, oh yeah, they've been in trouble with us for a long time. They lost their license to be practice taxing, accounting, whatever it is. So that was fun to learn. And then we had to switch. So a good accountant can be a fantastic investment, and you're going to want one. I'm not saying you can't do it yourself. If you like to do that stuff, maybe it's great. I don't want to deal with it. I want somebody that knows the ins and outs of the system, because dealing with the government is a big headache, and it can be a nightmare if you get anything wrong. So find someone good who knows what they're doing. All right, thanks for watching, everybody. I hope that was at least a little bit informational and maybe entertaining and answered a lot of your questions. But if it didn't, or there's still some new questions that it brought up, go ahead and ask them in the comments, and I'll either answer them directly on there, or I'll make another video about it. I think I've got one more video left in this series that was like an hour long originally, so I broke it up into more manageable bites. If you want to see the last one, I'm going to put it right up here as an end credits thing. Remember that these are my experiences. Your mileage may vary. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.